Welcome to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, your guide in the race to financial freedom through real estate investing and sound financial practices. This podcast is for anyone interested in learning more about real estate investing, personal finances, and a new take on traditional retirement. Now, here are your hosts, Larry Fierro and Mike Moe.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, your guide on the race to financial freedom through real estate investing and sound financial practices. And speaking of real estate investing and sound financial practices, we cover a couple of those in the show today, don't we, Mr. Fierro?
Oh, man, we're all over the place with that. We just cover it all. We said, you know what? Let's put it all in one episode and just get it done.
Every real estate investing tactic and sound financial practice that you can think of is in this show. Not kid, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but we do have a good one today with Mr. Antoine Martel, man. And we deep dive a subject that we've kind of brushed on and we've kind of, just kind of gleaned over a little bit, but we haven't really spent a whole lot of time on it and given it the justice that it probably deserved a long time ago. It's a really, really popular strategy because it's got a lot of appeal, and it's the BRRRR strategy that we're talking about. Let me see if I can remember this to get this right. The buy, the rent. Nope, not right. We're going to buy, rehab or renovate, refinance, rent, and repeat. Or I got those backwards.
You did. Buy. Yep. It's buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat.
You got it backwards too this time. All right, let's get it again.
I wanted to rehab it twice. All right.
You want to rehab it twice?
Okay, yeah. So we're going to buy it. We're going to renovate it. We're going to rent it.
Yeah,
we're going to refinance it. And then we're going to rinse and repeat it.
There we go. Oh, you added an extra R. You put rinse and repeat on there. I'm surprised nobody's done that yet. I haven't seen it yet.
The rinse and repeat, that's the biggest marketing ploy out there, that rinse part and repeat.
Because, you don't really need another shampoo. They're just trying to get you to, use more shampoo.
That's right.
But no, man, this is a super, super popular strategy because it essentially lets you take one down payment. Say all you got right now is, $20,000. That's all you got to put on a property. It allows you to take that money, that $20,000. And if you do it right, you can get a cash flowing asset, cash flowing rental property, and get your $20,000 back out of the property and move it on to the next one. Now, how do you do that? Well, it's exactly like we just talked about. You buy the property. So say you buy the property, let's use the example Antoine got, and we'll dive deep on this, but say you buy the property, say for $40,000, and you put $5,000 down on it because you're going to do a loan on it. You do a little bit of renovation, and after the fact, the property gets appraised for $55,000, and then you can take a loan back out on it and you refinance it for $40,000 and you pull all your money out of it, and then you're renting that property for a certain amount per month and making cash flow on it. And then you take your down payment that you refinance out of it and roll it into the next one.
Yeah, and the best part about it is once you get that initial investment of $40,000, any money you make on it after that is an infinite return because you've got zero money involved. So that monthly cash flow is infinite.
Yeah, and the goal is to get, all your money out. But as we discussed later in the show with Mr. Antoine, that doesn't always happen. But let's be honest, even if you get most of your money out and you leave a little bit, a sliver of cash in that deal, and you can still get most of your money out and roll it to the next one, that's still a win.
Yeah, you either make money or you learn.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. We'll leave it there.
We'll leave it there. So you want me to jump into the warm up? We'll get these hamstrings all warmed up so they can run without.
Yeah, man. No need to pull on a muscle here.
That's it. All right. It's something that Antoine talked a lot about in the episode, and we wanted to define it here for you. So when you know what he's talking about when you get to that point, we're doing ARV. ARV in real estate is short for after repair value, or the estimate of a property's value after all repairs and upgrades are completed. The after repair value will also define an investor's exit strategy and reveal which real estate financing route is the best.
Yeah, it's that key part of the refinance part on that R of that one of those R's in the BRRRR strategy, right? So if you're going to buy the property, if you're going to put the money into it, you're obviously going to buy it for a discount because you're buying properties that might be ugly, might need some work, might be, a little bit run down, and you're buying it because you know that once you put a certain amount of money in it, you know this ARV, this after repair value, and you know that if you got a good spread there, a good margin, that you're going to be able to get most of your money back once you refinance. But it's super, super, super key that you are confident with that ARV, because it's all in appraisal's opinion, right? But you can help yourself out by making sure those comps are right, and that you're doing your due diligence on what that house should be worth after you know what you're going to update it and renovate it with.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into this one? Because I'm super excited for these guys to hear Antoine talk about the BRRRR method.
Let's do it. All right. Antoine Martel, welcome to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast, man. How you doing?
Really good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for stopping down and sharing your knowledge with our listeners. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited to dive into your story. Reading a little bit about your background. I mean, I think like Larry said, you got a ton of knowledge to let our listeners in on. And before we get started, I just want to overview kind of what our goal of this episode is, and like we discussed before we kind of hit the record button, is love to unpack your story and how you scaled from the 0 to 100 units using that BRRRR strategy, and how our newer investors can kind of implement that in their investing. So I think a lot of our investors our listeners are really intrigued with the strategy. So I'd love to unpack that. But before we do that, man, let's talk about your background, how you got into real estate, and a little bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm 25 years old, live in Los Angeles, been investing since I was like 19, 20 years old. So about 5-6 years ago, really got introduced to real estate investing through my brother. Actually, he took me and my dad to like a real estate investing seminar, learned about flipping houses, wholesaling, et cetera. And then I just kind of got addicted from there, and I couldn't stop reading or listening to podcasts back then about real estate investing, the different ways to invest, and tried to flip houses in California for about a year or two, just trying a bunch of different strategies. Nothing ever worked, just as lack of money, lack of experience, and lack of, knowing people, especially over here where you can buy like a dilapidated house that, a tear down property for like $800,000. And now I'm buying houses out of state for $5,000 and they just need a full gut. They don't even need to be torn down. So it's a completely different world out of state. Really got introduced to out of state investing through just networking and networking events, Instagram, going on a bunch of different podcasts, and then just listening to podcasts of people actually investing out of state. And I was like, man, this sounds way better. My dad has some money saved up. We can get out of state with, 20, 30, 40,000 bucks. We don't need $500,000 or $1 million in cash to beat out these guys in LA. And so kind of my last semester at LMU, or at university, which was LMU, Loyola Marymount University here in LA, I decided that I was going to start investing out of state. I started analyzing markets, found a couple markets, chose Memphis, Tennessee, bought that first house before graduating, bought it for like $35,000, renovated it for $5,000, and then did a cash out refinance, pull all the money out. And I did that all right before graduating, and then kind of like turn around, gave my dad his $40,000 back that he had invested to fund the deal because I didn't have any money. And and I was like, I can keep doing this after graduating. Like, we got our money back. I got a house for free. Let me just keep doing this. And he was like, all right, sure. And I was just give me, I think we graduated in May, right? So I was like, give me till the end of the year. Let me try to figure this thing out. Graduated in May. And then by the end of the year, we had like 8 to 10 single family homes in Memphis. So all through the BRRRR strategy and BRRRR method. And so, yeah, we can unpack that as well. But then after that, just to people know where I am now. Now that was in 2017 when I graduated. Now it's 2020, 3 years later. I'm doing about 10 to 15 homes a month. And I have a turnkey business where we buy properties, renovate them, rent them out, and then resell them. And that all started from our original portfolio when we eventually ran out of money in December 2017 after I graduated. Once we had 8 to 10 homes, we couldn't BRRRR anymore because we ran out of money. And so people started reaching out to us like, hey, can we invest in real estate? We see you guys have a portfolio. How the hell do you invest in Memphis from California? Like, how do you do it from, your house and a computer? Don't you have to see the thing? And no, you don't have to. And we started selling homes in our portfolio to our friends and family. And that's how the kind of turnkey business started. And then that's kind of been what I've been focusing on the last couple of years.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So that is actually possible that you can actually invest outside of your local area. We've been, it's kind of a running theme with our show. We tell people that you can do it all the time, and they have a tendency to be a little skeptical at first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cause there's a lot of people online that say contrary to it. And a lot of big guys that are saying, don't invest outside of the market that you don't understand for doing your first deal. And for some people, it's impossible. If you live in Manhattan, if you live in LA, New York, San Francisco, Seattle, it just doesn't even make sense. Doesn't make sense. You're literally banking on appreciation. And then the only way you get the appreciation out is if you sell the property, refinance it. How often are you going to do that? You're just making more work for yourself. Whereas you can just align yourself with the right people on the ground and find some people, on the ground in markets where you can buy a house with $20,000 out of your pocket. So, yeah.
And I'd say, some markets impossible, but even if it's possible in your market, why would you do it if you can get the choice of any market and, out of the States? If you can do it as effectively as you can do it in your backyard with good systems and, to your point, people on the ground, why wouldn't you take your pick of the markets, right?
Yep, exactly. And then you also you get cash flow, you get appreciation, and you get the diversification now too. So a lot of people especially when we were living in the Bay Area, people own these $2-3 million homes. They have $1 million to $2 million in equity because they bought it 30, 40 years ago. And they do a refinance or do something and they buy something local and just buy a condo in downtown San Francisco. And I'm like, what the hell are you going to do with it? Oh, we're going to rent it out. It's like, yeah, you just bought the condo for cash. There goes $1 million and it's, renting up for $4,000 a month. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any, after taxes and insurance, it doesn't make any sense. Whereas you can just invest it out of state, $1 million out of state. Geez, you can, if you get financing, you can buy, $5 million portfolio out of state and be cash flowing way more than $4,000 net. So
yeah, it's awesome.
There had to have been some special.
Can you kind of overview the BRRRR?
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say there had to have been some special challenges to investing out of state. Did you have to find boots on the ground? Did you have to set up in each different area? You had to set up the people that were actually doing the work for you? Yeah.
So that takes the longest part of time, right? So that takes that first time I did that, it took me 6 months to build that team on the ground. Because first of all, who the hell is your team? What market? And then so who's your team in what market? And then which one do I choose first? So do I go look for contractors first? Do I look at deals first? Do I analyze deals first? Do I find a property manager first? And the answer is you kind of got to do them all at the same time. Now that I've scaled up and I have some experience, I would recommend going and just finding a property management company first. Normally they can help you find a realtor. Normally they can help you find deals. They'll be your property manager. They have photographers. They have access to all these people, contractors most of the time as well, that can do the renovations on your properties that you're buying. So property management companies have been the people on the ground that, are my kind of hub. And then you can look at a lot of the other people as the spokes, right? So the contractors, insurance company, title company, all these people, they already have experience in working with the property management companies. So yeah, it takes the most amount of work. And I've gone into markets like Akron, Ohio, and thought I had a golden team again, because now I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, and Cleveland, Ohio, but I've tried to expand to other markets and tested it out for a year. And it's just still things just still are not clicking with the property management company. So sometimes it does go bust, and sometimes you need to find a new team and find a new market. And 2 for 5. So
nice.
There you go. So can we overview the BRRRR strategy? We haven't really had a deep dive on that strategy on this show yet. So what's kind of the concept and the power behind that strategy, and what does it even mean?
Yeah. So the BRRRR strategy and what BRRRR means is you buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So the benefit of the BRRRR strategy, it allows you with very little capital. I would normally recommend $50,000 to $80,000 if you want to get started without using any financing. So that means buying a property cash, renovating it cash, renting it out, then refinancing normally 6 months later, which is a big piece that's left out. In order to do the cash out refinance, most lenders are going to want you to have that property seasoned, which means you have to be on title for normally 6 months or 12 months. So you're going to buy the property, cash, renovated cash out refinance 6 months later, pull that money out, and hopefully you'll leave very little money left in the deal. So it allows you with $50,000 to $100,000 to take that, buy one house with it, renovate it, rent it out 6 months later. Hopefully you get your $50,000 to $100,000 back, and you can keep doing it again and again and again. So it allows people with sub $100,000 to grow a rental property portfolio without leaving too much money in every single deal to help kind of scale them up.
Awesome. Yeah. So essentially you're able to take that same capital and roll it in deal after deal after deal. Hopefully, if you're doing it right with, buying it right and, and refinancing and leaving little money out, but still having that cash flow at the end of that, that refinance. So,
yeah, exactly. Because the other option too, I sell turnkey homes. I have, 10, 15 homes a month, right? So our clients come to us and they buy turnkey, right? So they'll, instead of like, if you're going to do a BRRRR project, you'll buy a house for like 30, 40, 50 grand, renovate it for 10, 20 grand, and then hope it's worth 80 or 90,000 bucks. Turnkey means I'm selling it for 80 or $90,000. And then you're going to come and just put the 20% down, which after closing costs is right around $20,000. So I always recommend like people who are doing the BRRRR strategy to compare it with the turnkey, because turnkey is like zero work at all, zero time. You don't have to worry about the 6 months refinance, none of that stuff. So just make sure when you're doing the BRRRR strategy to beat because a lot of people are confused, like, oh, what is a good return? How much should I leave in the deal? Well, you should leave less than $20,000 in the home, and you should be making higher than a 15% return, cash on cash return once it's refinanced. Or you can just go buy and turnkey. If 15% return and 20 grand left in a deal is fine with you, and you don't want to do any of the work and you have a full-time job, just buy the turnkey home. But the BRRRR strategy, just make sure you're beating that if you're going to put in all that extra effort. And 1 out of every 10 BRRRRs is not going to go as planned. Appraisal won't come back. Renovation's going to, so, have to factor that into as well. It's not like a guarantee that you're going to make that kind of money. I guess turnkey is never a guarantee either, but it's a much safer bet than doing the whole BRRRR strategy.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a really good benchmark to kind of
Yeah.
If you're looking at a deal, if you're looking at a BRRRR, that should be the benchmark whether or not you should actually put in that time and effort to do so. Awesome.
Nice. Well, can we kind of deep dive into each one of the letters there? The buy, the B of the BRRRR strategy, the buy. Is there any specific property that works better for a BRRRR method or a strategy that you should use for the buy side?
Yeah, good question. So what I focus on and what I tell a lot of my clients to focus on is to focus on properties that are, so normally in Memphis and Cleveland, there's a lot of 3-bedroom, 1-bath. So either 3 1s or 3 2s is what I recommend. I try to stay away from 2 1s as much as possible. Sometimes you get a big 2 1 and it makes sense, but a lot of them are very, very tiny. So 3 1, 3 2, and then something else I stay away from is anything over like 1,500 square feet. Normally our properties are right around like 1,100 square feet. We've just seen it help with the turnover of the tenant. So now instead of having I've seen people like not use us to buy turnkey rentals and go and do it themselves. They follow up with me because they got screwed or whatever. And they send me an email. They're like, send me the property you bought. And they bought like a 2,400 square foot, 4-bedroom, 3-bath in the suburbs. And I'm like, man, they're like, yeah, but Antoine, the rent's not $800 like your home's. That's, $1,300. And I'm like, yeah, but you paid triple the price. So for a couple $100 extra, you paid triple the price. Now you have this huge home. Just turning over that damn thing is going to cost you $4,000 or $5,000. There goes the income. So smaller homes, 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 3-bedroom, 2 baths, and then also close to jobs and close to downtown. I stay away from all neighborhoods with crime. I like to be in B and C class neighborhoods, no crime, close to jobs, and then normally like a 20-minute drive outside of downtown. I don't like to be too far out. Like some people like invest like way out, like an hour or two from like a major metro. I don't like to be that far out. It kind of just is scary when there is a recession. There could be some kind of, COVID is kind of the opposite, but there could become some sort of compression if there's a lack of jobs 2 hours out, people may start to move in. So
that's awesome. So kind of taking it down the letters here. So from a renovation standpoint, are there key things that you typically do? Obviously, you're looking to get the most bang for your buck to get the appraiser to come in and with the least amount spent on that renovation. So what are like the key like renovations that you look to do in this BRRRR strategy? Yeah,
so every home that we do is kind of the same. If there's every home and every kind of renovation is the same. So same kind of flooring, same paint, same exterior lights if it needs it, same doors, same exit, same everything, so that it creates a system and a process so that we know exactly what the price is. So it allows our bids to be, very close and very similar. And so it also helps with just the installation. So if you buy the same part 5,000 times, you're going to get really damn good at installing that, whatever it is, the flooring or the door or whatever, because you know exactly how it works and you know it front and back. So that's kind of helped us scale up. We never have to think about what color are we going to paint this or what color is this, what color is this. So, we've never asked or been asked those questions. So setting up a system and an SOP for the renovations has been really important. What we do since we're doing turnkey, there's a little bit of additional renovations that we do that maybe a normal investor wouldn't, just because we want our client to have a good experience. So like any major system that has like a year or two left on life, like we'll typically replace it. Even if it is still working, we just try to get rid of it so that we don't have issues like right away. Same thing with like the roof, 1 to 2 years left on the roof, always replace it. And then your typical stuff, I mean, renovating, updating the bathrooms, updating the kitchen, normally new flooring, normally luxury vinyl plank, and then interior, exterior paint. And then Cleveland has this weird thing called point of sale inspections, which is pretty much like whenever you buy or sell a home, there's a city inspector that comes and like makes a list of stuff. So normally those are some big items like fixing cracked concrete blocks or fixing cracked sidewalk blocks. So there's some other things too that then typically are handled with our renovations. And those are kind of like long-term things that the city inspector comes out and flags us for so that we can do those. Cool.
Is there a percentage of the purchase price that you look like to not spend over in renovation, or is you got it pretty much dialed down to the certain rooms and per square feet that you don't usually look at that? It's all just about the numbers. I mean, I bought homes for $5,000 that the renovation was $60,000, and then I bought homes that are $60,000 where I've spent $5,000 on the renovation. So it kind of depends on the deal. We just look at, for us, the biggest thing is just the ARV. So running the comps, making sure the property is actually worth that value. And now that we have some scale, we kind of know the neighborhoods and we're kind of creating our own comps. So it makes that number for the ARV very strong for us. So now we can be even more aggressive when making offers and buying homes. So that's been important for us. But yeah, I mean, any way that the deal shakes out, we just look for our 15% kind of margin on our deals. And that's all we look for, no matter what way the deal shakes out, whether, with a purchase price and renovation. Cool. I should have asked this when we were talking about the buy side. How do you guys sourcing your deals right now? Is it, wholesaler, direct to seller, or how are you usually finding them?
So I started a wholesaling company in January. So I've been doing that. We've been buying like 1 to 2 homes a month from the wholesaling side. So that's cool. Other than that, before that, it was kind of I would say like 60% MLS, 20% off market deals from realtors, and then 20% from wholesalers. So still heavy MLS. And then a lot of like off-market stuff that was like, or I guess pocket listings where it was about to go to the MLS, but they kind of just sent it to us like, hey, before I list this, just wanted to share it with you guys. Do you want to buy it? And normally those are the homes that we buy. They just don't want to waste their time dealing with a bunch of BS offers. They know we're going to close. They know we're going to buy with cash. They know we're not going to go back to them and ask for like $5,000 or $10,000 back, which is big on these like $40,000 purchases. So and that just comes with time. So when we first started, it was like 90% MLS, 10% wholesalers. But just with time, a lot of the realtors get to know you and your company and your brand. And so they'll just start sending stuff directly to us.
Nice. Very cool.
So doing the right thing and keeping it at it is basically what brings the deals to you. So
yep. 100%.
Nice.
Yep.
Now, on the next R part of it, the rent part, when you get the properties rented, do you need to have them fully rented, number one? And number two, how long should you have a history of rental income before you can go for the refinance aspect of it?
Yeah, good question. So for our turnkey clients, we always sell the homes with tenants in place. So every time somebody buys a home from us, it already has a tenant in place for the rent amount, et cetera, et cetera. So there's no guesswork for them. They buy the property and they have day one cash flow. So that's great for them. Before you do the refinance, something else big about the rent side is the property management company handles pretty much all the rent stuff for us. So we'll tell them when we're buying a home, we kind of have a gauge. You can use like Rent-O-Meter or Rentometer, whatever you want to call it, to kind of gauge what the rent amount should be. And that's normally a pretty good gauge. It's actually a pretty accurate number. I would just go, unless you're on like a border of a neighborhood or something like that, I would go and like you can check rental comps, but Rent-O-Meter is fairly accurate if you're like in the middle of a kind of zip code or neighborhood. So I would use that number. And then I would also like use the recommendation of the property management company as well. Like, hey, I want to rent this out for $800 once I complete these repairs. What do you think? And they're going to give you, a yes or a no, and they're going to tell you where they think it should be. And so you can adjust your numbers accordingly, all before you buy the home. Just do this. Make sure you have all the numbers set in stone before you end up buying the thing. And so I let them kind of control the entire process too. Once the renovation's done, they take photos, they list it for rent for the price that we wanted. And then normally, since you do have 6 months, I mean, hopefully you renovate the house and rent it out for the 6-month market, or else something's wrong. Hopefully the renovation just takes a month, and and then you rent it out the next month. So hopefully 2 months in, the thing's all done. That's what your goal should be. The lenders, if you're doing conventional Fannie Mae financing, the lenders, as long as you have a lease in place, the lenders are going to be fine. They're not going to ask for really rent rolls or any like past or prior rent collections or any P&L or anything like that. As long as you're getting an investment property loan and there is a lease in hand, those lenders will lend to that and lend you the money just based on the lease. So, and that happens a lot with our turnkey clients too, because they're buying a property from us and it's an investment property. The tenant just moved in like 4 days ago and they're applied for the loan. We give them the lease to just submit it, and all the lenders that we work with are fine for the Fannie Mae conventional financing.
Nice.
Cool. And I should ask you on the refinance side, did you always buy them cash first, or have you purchased them using financing and then refinance, once you've done the renovation and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I've never done that. And I think it's just because my price point is way too low. So if you're doing this in like a higher price point, like buying for $100K, renovating for 20, and then refinancing for 150, it might make sense to go and get like hard money or something like that. But when you're buying houses for like 20 or 30 grand, go try to get hard money for it, and you're paying like $3,000 in points because that's their points minimum. Yeah. Now it's like, oh my God, now I'm paying instead of like 2 points, which is what it's supposed to be, you're paying like 8 points, because many of these hard money lenders have a loan minimum. And so the profit on these deals is also extremely skinny. So, $3,000 just coming off right off the top, it's going to make a lot of deals not look very fun. So, yeah.
And then are there certain lenders that you got to look for this? Because I remember trying to explain the BRRRR strategy to the same lender who helped me out with my primary residence, not familiar with investors, not familiar with the strategy, and he was kind of like deer in headlights. So is there a typical type of lender that you use for this, or if it is the conventional lender, how do you go about like describing what you're trying to do?
Yeah, so I wouldn't even describe to the lender. It's going to go over their head anyways. One of the big for example, Wells Fargo, they'll lend to you. I just got a loan approved for one of my clients, and they're buying it was actually one of my mentees. He's buying a house to BRRRR it, and he's getting conventional financing, and then we're going to buy it, rehab it, and then refinance it, 6 or 12 months down the line. But he got approved for a loan for he's buying the house for like 40 grand. So he got approved for a loan for like $35,000 or something ridiculous. And that's through Wells Fargo. And so Wells Fargo is one of the big lenders out there that will finance those properties right off the bat. And they'll also do the refinance later. I think they ask for 12 months of seasoning. So, but it could be a good way for somebody to get into a deal is buying a property. Let's say it's in an okay shape, right? It doesn't need a ton of renovation because they won't lend to that. But you buy a house for 50 grand, you put down $15,000, you renovate it, and then 12 months down the line you refinance it all through Wells Fargo. So that's one big lender. The reason why I didn't say any other lenders, a lot of them have like loan minimums. The Wells Fargo is the one lender that I know that doesn't have a loan minimum, but a lot of the big guys like Citi or I guess Wells Fargo is a big guy, but Bank of America, Citi, a lot of these big banks have loan minimums. Most of the time it's a loan minimum of $100,000. And so it is very hard to find financing for the sub $100,000 loan amount is very hard to find. And especially when you're sub $50,000, it gets even more difficult. So
yeah, those are just make sense for the, from the paper.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, why are we going to waste our time? What's our, how much money are we going to make on this thing? Yeah. And they look at it, they're making $300. It's like, shit, I'm not even going to waste my time. It's not worth the ink,
So, man, I love that. It sounds like it's got the BRRRR strategy's got a ton of upside, but what are some of the growing pains? Is there almost like a breaking point of the BRRRR with the single family and like smaller multifamilies like duplex, tris, and quads?
Yep. So slow as hell. One deal every 6, let's say somebody had 60 grand. They bought a house for 40, renovated for 20. Now they're sitting there for 6 months. They're going to be bored out of their mind because a lot of people to even just get started in the BRRRR strategy need to have a lot of time. There's a lot of effort that goes into building the team, choosing the market, building the team, analyzing deals, making offers, getting rehab bids. And then you kind of like buy the thing. And then you're like, and you only have 60 grand, right? You buy the thing for 40, you start the renovation's done. Okay, now property management's renting it out. And then you're sitting there for 4 months, like twiddling your thumbs. And you're like, what the hell am I going to do now? I just put in, months and months of work. And now it kind of feels like I'm just sitting here doing nothing and praying that my appraisal comes back good. So it is hard for people that have less than $100,000 to, I guess it's not hard. It's just really really boring and really slow. And it takes a lot of time to like, because a lot of people that BRRRR are like, okay, I want to BRRRR up to 10 homes, get 10 conventional single family homes. That's kind of what the goal is. Man, that's 60 months that's going to take you to get that if everything goes well and everything checks out and every home appraises. And so how long is it going to really take you? 100 months to do that? So that's kind of one of the downsides. The second downside is just the appraisal risk on the refinance. And so that's the biggest and scariest thing, where if somebody has 60 grand and they're doing the first BRRRR strategy, like what if the home doesn't appraise? What if you're all in for 60 grand like that guy was, and it appraises for $65,000? And now you're like, shit, I wasted 3 months of time setting this up, 6 months of time waiting. I'm 9 months into this thing, and now I should have just bought a turnkey and could have slept well every night instead, right? So that's the other thing, and that's something that's not controllable. You can always go and find another lender and try to find another appraiser to go out to the property and try to get that value up. But with the turnkey business, we've done over 200 homes now. And there's just some properties that just, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but no matter how many appraisers you send out to that thing, the appraisal keeps coming back bad. When we're selling a home for 80 or 90 grand, it keeps coming back at $50,000, $50,000. It doesn't matter who's going out there. So that's the biggest risk with the refinancing. It does help if you have experience or somebody who's in that market who has a good lender, who has a good set of appraisers. That's one of the issues with using a big bank like Wells Fargo, because when, let's say Wells Fargo, the Wells Fargo guy I'm using is based in LA. So when they want to go and find an appraiser, if you're doing a refinance on a home in Memphis, they have a pool of 250 people in their system, and they just auto pick somebody, right? But does that person know the neighborhood? How far do they live away from the neighborhood? They could be making 100-mile drive to the home to do the appraiser. They don't know what the hell's going on in the market. They're just, a fresh person the first time ever in that zip code or home, right? Home or neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. They don't know the comps and know that it's on the uptrend instead of what they come and see that it's on the downtrend. And now they're screwing up the whole values of stuff that we've been doing for 12 months. So it really depends on the lender. And, if you're doing the BRRRR strategy and you kind of know this lender has good appraisers or has helped somebody else do refinances or done homes and stuff like that, that can really help your odds of that being successful.
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. I never thought about that. If you know the market like the back of your hand and you know where that path of progress is and you know the businesses that are coming in and the money that's being pumped into that, but there's not enough data points on paper, a big appraiser from one of those companies, they're not going to go off any of that. They're going to go off what they can see from a comp perspective on paper, and that's all they can go off, right? So what's some ways to hedge against the appraisal? Is it just making sure your comps and your after repair value, your ARV is spot on and as research as possible?
Yeah, and also just buying right. So like we get a lot of deals for even Martel turnkey, for our turnkey business, Martel, which is Martel turnkey. We get a lot of deals that are in like areas that just don't have many comps. And I think there's a lot of people that would buy them and kind of like just to get into their first deal, right? Like, oh, this house, yeah, there's not many comps, but there's, one down the street that sold last month or whatever, and it sold for the value we want. Okay, but where's the other? I need 5. Like, give me 5. And, oh, there's not 5, but the one will be fine. And then like 2 years ago, one sold on the same street. So if that appraiser goes out and he sees the one comp, okay, great. But then he's going to either expand his search and he's going to go find these other properties in different weird locations that aren't right next to your home. And those values, who knows what those values are going to be, right? So especially if he doesn't know the area and doesn't know that, oh, on this side of the street, everything changes. Right. Because he's just going to pick random stuff, right? Because he doesn't know the area. So the only real way to hedge against it is to use a lender that has done a lot of business in that area. And there is ways to check that. You can do it like going on the county, like we have in Memphis, like Shelby County, like record of deeds. So you can go through the record of deeds and see who has lent on homes in that zip code, find that lender. Now you know the lender lends in that loan amount, and you can see what kind of loans they're doing. Are the loans for, stuff at the ARV value or for the purchase price? And then contact those lenders and be like, hey, I'm doing a refinance. I saw you just did one down the street and it looks like it appraised because, the loan amount's here and it must have appraised for that value. So I'd like to use you for my refinance as well. And so that's another great way to kind of back end to find a lender to use.
Awesome.
Nice. Now, when you're scaling up with this method, what are some of the growing pains that you find? Like if you go from
that was the question.
10 units.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
The growing pains, well, I guess, yeah, like I said, one of the growing pains is just how slow it is. So it's painfully slow. Another one of the growing pains is just really, I would just say, the contractors and finding the right deals. And then, so contractors finding the right deals and then running out of money. So running out of money is probably going to happen first. The contractors, they can probably do a couple homes a month. Even if they're a small shop contractor, they can probably do 1 to 2 homes a month. So you may be good there for a while. And then finding the deals. So it takes a lot of deals and a lot of analyzing deals to find the right deal. We normally place like 5 offers to get 1 deal bought. So you're by yourself submitting 5 offers, but like how frequently? We're doing 10 a month, right? So we're submitting 50 offers a month every single month. So if you want to do 1 deal a month, then okay, you got to submit 5 offers, right? Which for some people may be easy, some people may be difficult and time constraints. So yeah, I would say those 3 things are the main things that are kind of difficult when you're trying to scale the BRRRR model. The first one though being is just the lack of capital, because there's not very many people out there who have over $100,000 who want to get into the BRRRR strategy, who want to invest out of state and build a team. There is some people, but not very many people who have enough money to actually go and scale. And so a lot of people revert to like raising money or bringing on partners, which is another way to go about it. That takes a lot of time to go out, raise money, like show that you have a team on the ground, they know what the hell they're doing, and that your deal is going to be successful.
Gotcha. Nice.
Awesome. Now you scaled your single family portfolio to 100 units, right?
So I have a multifamily apartment building portfolio, which is close to 100 units. Okay. The single family homes is we have like about 38 homes that we have right now, but all those homes are being sold turnkey.
Cool.
So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. I was going to ask if those are some of the kind of the growing pains that you saw when you were trying to scale up to that size.
Yeah. I mean, I was just like 6 months in. And so one of the maybe questions from one of your audience members is, okay, Antoine, you said it takes 6 months to season. How the hell did you buy your first house in May and by December you had 8 to 10? Yeah. Well, you can find some lenders that don't have a seasoning period. You just got to search and call. I cold called probably 200 lenders in Memphis, in LA, regional lenders, national lenders, and just cold called them and told them exactly what the situation was. Hey, I bought this house a month ago. I renovated it. I rented it out. Can you do it? Do you do refinances? I think it's worth 70 grand, 60 grand. No, loan amount's too small. No, loan amount's too small. Or no seasoning period. And then I just made an Excel, Google spreadsheet of just all the lenders I had spoke to. I finally found a local credit union in Memphis that would do business with people that don't live in Memphis that would lend on the property. And so that's how I was able to scale so quickly from 1 to 10 homes just within like 6 months or 8 months, was just through that lender. And that's how I was able to scale so quickly. And you can find, there's many other like lenders out there that will do that kind of thing as well.
Awesome. Very cool. Now, you kind of touched on 2 pain points with contractors and finding deals. Is BRRRR still a really good go-to method, even in this market where we're at, where, you see a lot less people flipping, a lot less wholesalers, just because of the margins are so thin on these deals nowadays. So does that go the same for BRRRRs? And then, finding good contractors in this economy too? Like, yeah. Are those 2 things killing the BRRRR strategy, or is it still doable at this point in time in the market?
The BRRRR strategy is still doable at this point in time. It's just, people have to be realistic with their numbers. So everybody's running their numbers for the BRRRR strategy to like not have anything left in the deal. I just don't think that's possible with today's market. I have a couple like students that I mentor kind of thing. And so they've been doing the BRRRR strategy as well. And so it's like they've been doing it, and I'm having them leave in like $5,000 in every deal, $5,000 to $10,000 in every single deal. And they're able to find stuff that's good right on the MLS. They're making offers, putting under contract, sending out a contractor, and leaving in $5,000 to $10,000 for every single deal. I think that's a realistic number. I mean, when you look at the percentage, you're making like a 30-40% return once the thing is all done. Like, who wouldn't be happy with that? Yeah. A lot of people are just like in this analysis paralysis stage and just like shooting for the moon. Like, no, I want all my money back. It's like,
they want the infinite return they hear about, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it might be possible, maybe we'll get a high appraisal. Maybe the rehab bid will come in lower. But if we're shooting for $5,000 left in a deal and a 40% return, I think that's a pretty good number to shoot for. when things are conservative. So like, especially for their first deals, like we'll run the numbers for the ARV like 75K, and we'll just put 70K just to be safe, because you never know what the hell's going to happen. Yeah. And then you want to leave in 5 to 10K after that. So always just be a little bit conservative with your numbers too, especially for your first deal, because there's always going to be the rookie mistakes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, cool.
I guess I just have one more question for you. I wondered if you could just pick one of your BRRRR methods and kind of walk us through an example of one of your deals.
Sure. We can do the first deal. So that one, bought it for 35 grand, renovated for 5 grand. So all in for 40. And then I think it was worth like 55 grand after, let's say. So 55,000. And then we got a cash out refinance for 75% of that. And so we got a refinance for the loan amount when we did the refinance was 41,000. And so let's just say we were able to get all our money out, because there's going to be some other closing costs and stuff like that. So that first deal, bought it for 35,000, renovated for 5,000. It was very light renovation, obviously. That was like new carpet in the bedrooms, new interior paint, and then like a couple of tiles were damaged in the kitchen, and that was it. That's something else that I would recommend too. If you're doing your first BRRRR strategy, keep the renovation sub $20,000. Just keep it small, keep it light, test your contractor before you do some big job. And so bought it, renovation was done in 2 weeks, got photos done, got it rented out for like $700 a month, and then it was worth like $55,000 after. Went to the lender, did a cash out refinance, 75% loan to value on a $55,000 value. So the loan was around $41,000, and so we actually still own that home today, which is cool.
So you got all your money out plus $1,000. You collected $700 a month since you bought it. It's worth more than you bought it for and renovated, and sounds like a triple win to me.
Yeah, it's even worth. I think it's worth now. The values in that area. So after we bought that first house, we kept buying more and more and more in that neighborhood, and then we started selling turnkeys in that neighborhood, and so we did that for like 2 or 3 years straight. Now we sold the home like 2 blocks down. At the beginning of the year, we sold it for $80,000. And so we've really increased the value over the last couple of years in just that little pocket, because there's a lot of homes that have been renovated and rented out and stuff like that were dilapidated or vacant and looked ugly. And so now that home, we thought it was worth 55 grand in 2017. Now it's worth close to $80,000. Crazy.
That's so awesome. You were dedicated to that neighborhood and you were able to get the comp value. Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's something that we've, in Memphis, we're in 3 zip codes. In Cleveland, we're in 4 or 5 zip codes. So we're very specific with our zip codes. It helps us scale. It also makes it much safer for us too. So, in one neighborhood in Cleveland, we've done this year alone, I think in the last 6 months, we've done 20 homes. In one zip code. And so we literally made a graph of the ARVs of the area, and it's continuously going up, and we're always able to stay on top of it because we're always the one that's recently sold the next highest comp. And so it helps us kind of buy right and keep track of the market, because we can literally now make graphs with the data over the stuff that we've sold.
It's awesome. And part of the, really positive things as an investor, you're having a massive impact on those, communities that you're investing in at a pretty good scale too, as you're, turning over whole city blocks, to what they used to be run down, torn down houses, or not torn down, but, in pretty rough shape, and turning it into some pretty quality homes. So that's cool, man. I got one more question for you. And it's, the level of the skill level that's needed for the BRRRR strategy. Can anybody jump in, newbies, 1 or 2 deals in, jump in and start this BRRRR strategy? Or is this something that you might want to get either some single families or some flips or something under your belt a little bit before you dive into this?
The best way to learn real estate is just do it. Just if you don't feel like you need a mentor or a course or anything like that to like push you or to get you up every day to go and do it. I mean, just with this podcast, you know what the hell the BRRRR strategy is. Now you just have to find your market and start cold calling property managers to see if they're interested and can help you find deals and manage those homes after. And you can also ask them if they have any contractors to renovate those homes for you. So no, anybody can do it. BiggerPockets.com even has a BRRRR calculator. You can go download that thing for free. You can go make one yourself once you use it 500 times, because you're going to know the numbers by heart by then. Yeah. And so anybody can do it. It's not rocket science. I was doing it from a dorm room in college because I didn't want to graduate and get a job. So anybody can do it if you have the capital. That's the one caveat which stops a lot of people from getting into the game, is just not having enough capital or not having enough time to put it into it.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. Well, man, we really appreciate you jumping on the show. And like Larry said in the beginning, we thought you had a ton of knowledge to share with our listeners, and we were absolutely right. That was deep dive into the BRRRR strategy, man. We loved it. But before we get out of here, can you tell the listeners, where can they go to connect with you and learn a little bit more about what you're doing and what you got going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to reach out to me is probably on Instagram. My Instagram's at Martel Antoine, Martel. If you just search that, it'll come up. Feel free to check out my content, DM me, reach out to me. Let me know if you need any help with anything. If you're interested in turnkeys, you can shoot me a DM or go to our website too. The link's in my bio there as well.
Awesome, man. We'll throw those links in the show notes as well for anybody who wants to get a hold of you. Cool. Yeah, we really appreciate it, man. That's awesome.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Sir.
Thanks.
Take care.
See ya.
All right, everybody. That was Mr. Antoine Martel. And man, like we said at the beginning, we knew he had some knowledge, and he did not disappoint.
No, he did not. He came in and he dropped the mic and left after he dropped all his knowledge on us. So that was awesome. Yeah. No, and the BRRRR method is just such a strong tool that you guys need to learn and put in your toolbox, because, it takes a little bit of time, but once you find all the pieces and parts and get them in place, it's going to be a magical experience.
Yeah, man. And I didn't tell Antoine this, and I didn't tell you this at the beginning of the episode, but I was selfishly, asking all these questions for myself as I am exploring this as a, potential way to, make the capital that I have for real estate, just go a little bit further and get as much cash flowing assets as I can for, the capital that I have. So I was selfishly using this whole episode for myself. So you've done it before. So
I've done it a lot before. I'm surprised it took you to episode, what is this, 47 to get there?
Something like that. Yeah. But no, it's a really good strategy. And it's a really powerful strategy when done right. And, we didn't touch on it in the show, but you can use it for more than just single family, right? You can do this in small multis. Obviously it's a little different. It's a little variation of it, but it's a very powerful strategy.
And you're successful when you can start doing it with like 100-unit multifamilies.
Yeah. As the Jake and Gino say, what is it? Refi and roll?
Refi and roll. So
yep, same thing, larger scale.
Yep. So what are you thinking about a call to action for these nice folks here tonight?
Well, you heard Antoine. The important part about the BRRRR strategy, especially if you're going out of state, put your team together, right? Get that property manager on the phone, figure out who's going to be your hub that you're going to spoke out to with all these other team members. Find that property manager and start building that team would be numero uno, right? And if you're wondering on how do you pick out a market and a sub-market, go all the way back to, I think, October or November of last year, I think. And we had a couple episodes on detailing on how to identify good markets and good sub-markets.
Oh, yeah.
Go back there. But yeah, build that team, start building that team.
And, once you get that team together, like Anton had said, you can start concentrating on multiple houses in the same neighborhoods and start affecting those comps so you can actually affect your ARV going forward.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's powerful. That's part of the reason why you and I like real estate so much, is it gives you the most effect on your value of your portfolio legally.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much everything I've got for the nice folks tonight. Mike, how about you?
That's it, man. It's about time we get out of here. So thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. See you next time.
Take care, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. If you found value in any of the content from this show, consider supporting us in the following ways. Subscribe to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast. Leave a rating and review. Continue the conversation with like-minded individuals on social media by heading over to the Real Estate Marathon Podcast Facebook group, or follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Real Estate Marathon Podcast.